What if the person you thought you knew had lived a life full of sacrifices you never imagined? This funeral changed everything. The crowd at Cypress Grove Cemetery stood quietly around the freshly dug grave. Their low murmurs were carried away by a gentle breeze. A mix of family, friends, and distant acquaintances had gathered to pay their final respects to Robert Henley. He was a man respected for his charity work and his warm presence in the community. The polished black headstone shone under the afternoon sun, engraved with the words, "A life of service and sacrifice." Among the mourners, an elderly black woman stood apart, though not by choice. Her deep green dress flowed modestly around her, and her silver hair was tucked neatly beneath a simple hat. She held a single red rose in her hands. Her grip was steady, but her eyes revealed an emotion far heavier than that of those around her. While others exchanged polite greetings and quiet conversations, very few noticed her. She remained silent at the edge of the crowd, her presence both strong and understated. It was only after the pastor finished his final prayer that she stepped forward. Slowly, she moved toward the front. The crunch of gravel beneath her heels echoed in the silence as the mourners parted to make way for her. When she reached the grave, she paused and looked down at the polished casket. With great care, she placed the rose on top. Then she turned to face the crowd. "My name is Hattie Delaney," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "I doubt many of you know me, but I knew Robert better than anyone here." A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Faces turned toward one another, brows furrowed. Soft whispers filled the air. Who was this woman, and how could she claim such a deep connection to the man they all believed they knew so well? Hattie's eyes moved slowly across the sea of faces. Her expression was calm but firm. "Before today ends, you will understand why I am here," she said, "and you will understand the Robert Henley most of you never knew." Her words hung heavy in the air, filled with an unspoken promise. What Hattie was about to share would force everyone present to question everything they believed about the man they had come to honor. The murmurs faded, leaving only the soft rustle of leaves. Hattie took a deep breath. When she spoke again, her voice carried a quiet authority that demanded attention. "I met Robert 50 years ago," she began. Her gaze drifted as if she were watching memories unfold. "It was not here in this town. It was in Montgomery, Alabama, during a time when people like me were not welcome in places like this." The crowd leaned in slightly, curiosity growing. Hattie continued, her voice touched with both pride and pain. "Robert was a young man then, full of passion and purpose. He worked as a teacher, but his heart belonged to the civil rights movement. That is where our paths crossed. On the steps of a church where we were organizing sit-ins, he was not afraid to stand beside me, even when it meant losing his job or facing threats." Soft gasps moved through the crowd. The Robert they knew was kind and generous, but none had heard of this struggle. Hattie allowed the weight of her words to settle before continuing. "We were not just allies in the fight for justice," she said. "We were friends, and more than friends. We became family when the world tried to tear us apart. He stood by me when I lost my sister to the violence of those years. I stood by him when he was pushed away by his own people." Hattie's hand trembled slightly as she adjusted her hat. Her eyes stayed fixed on the casket. "We shared meals, stories, and tears. He called me his sister in every way that mattered, even when it was not safe for him to say it out loud." The crowd shifted uneasily as the truth began to sink in. It was difficult to connect this image with the polished philanthropist they had known, the man who helped quietly but never spoke of his own pain. "What I am telling you is not just about the past," Hattie said, her voice growing stronger. "It is about the man he became because of those struggles." She paused and let the silence stretch, but what she shared next would reveal sacrifices none of them had imagined. Hattie tightened her grip on her purse. Her voice did not waver. "We did not just live through those times, we survived them, and survival came at a cost. In 1967, Robert lost his teaching job for attending a march in Selma. The school board called it improper behavior, but we all knew the truth. It was punishment. He never told anyone here because he did not want sympathy. He packed what little he had and moved into a small one-room house on the south side of Montgomery. He survived on tutoring work and odd jobs, and he never stopped fighting. Her voice cracked slightly as she continued. When my home was firebombed for hosting meetings, Robert showed up in the middle of the night. He drove me and my 2 nephews to safety without hesitation, knowing the danger he faced. She turned back to the casket, her face softening. That was who Robert truly was, not the man in fine suits, but someone willing to walk through fire for the people he loved. The crowd stood silent as Hattie pulled a folded paper from her purse. "This," she said, "is a letter Robert wrote to me in 1972. I want to read a part of it." She unfolded the letter carefully. Her hand shook, but her voice remained clear. "Hattie, you are the sister I chose when life gave me none. We have carried burdens no one should bear, but I would carry them again for you without question. You remind me that love is not about blood, but about who stands with you when the world turns away." Her voice broke at the last line. She paused to collect herself. Many in the crowd wiped their eyes. Others looked down, ashamed they had never known this side of him. "Robert never turned away from anyone," Hattie said. "Even when it cost him everything, and how many of you knew this? How many ever asked?" She let the question linger. Then Hattie revealed a truth even deeper. "There is one more thing you must know," she said. "Robert fought a battle few ever saw. For years, he supported a child, a son he could not openly claim. The mother was a black woman, and the times would not allow it." Gasps spread through the crowd. His son Samuel was cared for quietly. Robert paid for his schooling, wrote letters every week, and visited in secret. He loved that boy deeply, even if he had to do it in silence. "Samuel is here today," Hattie said. A tall man stepped forward from the back of the crowd. His resemblance to Robert was clear. He walked to Hattie and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you," he said softly. Hattie smiled through tears. "It was always my honor." Robert's greatest love was for the people he fought for, Hattie told the crowd. "That is why I am here, to tell you who he really was." The silence that followed was filled with reflection. Stories began to surface. Memories of kindness now took on deeper meaning. Samuel spoke again. "My father believed a person is measured by the lives they change. Standing here, I see how much he gave." Tears fell freely, not only for Robert's death, but for the sacrifices they never saw. Hattie steadied herself for one last story. 2 months before Robert passed, he called me, she said. He was weak, but his spirit was strong. He told me he was creating a trust for children in this community, children who struggle, children who deserve a chance. Samuel confirmed it. The trust is real. Scholarships, programs, and guidance for kids in need. Hattie placed her hand on the headstone. "So I ask you this," she said. "How will you be remembered? Not by titles or things, but by the lives you lived." True legacy is not written in stone, it is written in hearts. The crowd stood quietly, changed forever.